Hello, I'm Rebecca Jackson-Artis. I'm a certified lactation specialist, a doula, and I'm slowly getting back into my acting and writing and stand-up comedy. So don't be surprised if all of a sudden I go back into my professional acting career suddenly. So, but no, I think right now I wanted to record this video because over the last few days I have been tagged, and also I've seen on some threads the question, why do Black women have a Black breastfeeding week? And I'm really glad European and women who live outside of the African diaspora are asking this question. And I'm not upset. It brings me such joy that they're asking this question, because it lets me know that Black women are so powerful that when we create a week that highlights like the fact that we were the original mothers, that we put babies to our breast who were descendants of those who established an oppressing system of enslavement and genocide, that we were still able, through that, we were still able to love and nurture and embrace and overlook the differences and the hate, and still see, even though we were forced to do it. Let's just be honest. Many women were forced to put that white baby to their breast while denying their baby their own milk, and and they would give their baby slop. But at the same time, we acquiesced, and we still saw the spiritual element into it, and we still nurtured that child. Because we could have, I'll be honest with you, we could have turned around and smothered that child. We could have, united and put some poison in that baby's mouth. Because there were a lot of slave revolts, people. There were a lot of slave revolts that are not talked about and are not discussed and are not shared. We rose up many times and killed our enslavers. We rose up many times and organized. But because certain things were in place and certain rules were in place designed to, just break that rise up in that revolution, there were no successful slave revolts in the United States. But I digress. So why is there a Black breastfeeding week? There's a Black breastfeeding week because, one, it's not just about enslavement. That is Black people, we have been around. We were the first people. We were the first people on this earth. And we have been around for, oh goodness, hundreds of thousands of years on this planet. And we are the first people. We are the original people. And Black women are the original mothers. Black women are the reason why the calendar exists. Black women are the reason why even counting started. Okay, what other reason would there be to count? Or the first reason there is to count. The very first reason to count. The very first reason to count is because a woman got her menses. Okay? And which then created a system that she had to look at the moon. And she had to figure things out, like, oh wait, I know it's every time the moon gets to that stage, I get my menses. So let me start counting. And now let me create a visual for when I'm getting my menses, which ended up being the calendar. Okay. And so then now I could start to really plan the pregnancies. Because we didn't need synthetic birth control. There was no such thing as a birth control pill, yet we were able to control with mathematics when we got pregnant. That's how in tune we were, and we knew our biochemistry. We weren't ignorant. You know, it wasn't what you've been told. We were, oh my gosh, Black women, all this, and what we have, the technology we have now, is a diluted version of what we had back then. So anyway, so we came into existence. We were the first women to perfect and honor and know how to birth. And to put our babies to our breast. That's what we did. That's all we did. And then we created so many other systems out of that. So because we were such amazing mothers and we put our babies to our breast and we birthed our babies the way they needed to be birthed, we figured out, okay, so everything else fell into play. How education, certain biochemical things, understanding so much about our bodies. We were there. We did all that. Okay. So part of Black Breastfeeding Week, and and I understand, Kimberly Seals Allers and Kadada Green created this back in 2013. So what just passed was the third annual Black Breastfeeding Week. So this is still in its infancy stages. Now, I'm not quite sure really what Kadada and Kimberly's intentions were, but I'm telling you what I feel from and how I celebrate Black Breastfeeding Week. I celebrate it with the knowledge of we are the original mothers. We knew what was going on biologically with our bodies. We taught everybody else. And the reason why civilization and the human race still exists today is because we put our babies to our breasts. And we shared the knowledge of how to birth and nurture and nourish the human race. So if that doesn't need honoring, I don't know what does. And by the way, you're welcome. Okay. So here we go. Okay, let me see if anybody still wants to watch this video, okay? So let's also talk about, so with that understanding, to talk about slavery in African history, and when I say African, I'm talking about African Americans, I'm talking about African, West Indians, Caribbean, Afro-Latinos. I'm talking about Black people in Australia, Black people in Russia, yes. There are Black people in Russia. Black people in Asia. Yes, there are tons of Black people in Asia. Black people in Europe. And guess what? There are some Black people in Europe that have been there for centuries. And they were one of the first people there. Yeah. Okay, anyway. I digress again. But I think this is kind of a part of, we got to start talking, because I think we look at Black Breastfeeding Week as this like rice paper thin week. No. This Black Breastfeeding Week is deep. It's like the deepest ocean, the deepest part in the ocean, deep. Because that's how much our history is and beyond. So when you look at slavery in African history, it's like 0.000000000000000000001% of African history, of Black people's history. So to only highlight enslavement is is like looking at a house in defining the beauty and the structure of the house by one nail way up top by the attic. You know, like that doesn't work. You got to look at the entire 7,000 square foot home. You know, it's like you can't look at that one little nail. You know, and it's one of those thin nails too. So the reason why black breastfeeding exists is to honor our ancestors, to honor our female ancestors in the establishment of motherhood, in the establishment of understanding the power of the woman's body. And what's happened is over time, with the Western perspective of life and the human race, it's been diluted. The African presence, the African influence, the original people's place. And what has been done is there has been propaganda that has been put out there to let black women know, you formula feed, you don't breastfeed. And I've actually witnessed it in hospitals and clinics, WIC, public health departments. I've witnessed it. I've personally witnessed the overlooking or the ignoring of black women's place in lactation. From the professional level down to being a lactation professional, all the way to being a mother. It's almost like we are dismissed. When you look at lactation textbooks, when you look at lactation promotional literature and materials, when you look at lactation instructional videos, when you look at lactation professionals who are honored and are a go-to resource for knowledge and information and support, when you look at lactation organizations, and I'm not gonna call them out, but there's one very popular one that has 3 letters that are the same letter. When you look at organizations like that and look at their bylaws or their organizational structure and mission, you see that black women, the original mother, the reason why many or all of us are here today, is dismissed. And what's happened is over time, we have sisters who think their bodies are meaningless. We have sisters who think being a woman and being a mother is problematic. And this has been taught to them. This is not a natural, innate feeling. And you have hospitals invading pregnancy, invading birth. You have hospitals pushing an agenda on black women through birth control or through lactation. You know, oh, well, here's formula. I've actually seen, again, I've witnessed multiple times. I'm not talking 1 or 2 or, just count on my hands. I've witnessed multiple times black women not getting the proper information, care, support, and resources and materials that I've seen their white counterpart get, or our white counterpart. I'm gonna put myself in there, because it's a problem when I, who have my first child at the age of 30, when at 6 months, I took my son in for a 6-month appointment, and I informed the resident at the clinic that I was still breastfeeding my 6-month-old son. And her response was, "That's so wonderful. You know, that is amazing. Many of you don't do that." If I'm lying, I'm flying. That woman actually applauded me and then responded with that statement. She had no clue that she was dealing with a highly educated Black woman who is very resourceful and knew probably far more than she did about maternal and child health. I don't consider knowing medication and surgery knowing about health. Just my opinion. So, but one thing I do want to, before I conclude this, because it's getting kind of lengthy, I want to emphasize to the entire world that Black women, women of color, because anytime you have color in your skin, you have an excess of melanin. You have a burst of melanin in your body. Now, just to have life, you cannot, you have to have melanin to live. It's just the amount of melanin that you have, okay? And by the way, melanin is in breast milk. Ooh. Okay, so it's very important that we overstand, not just understand, but overstand that Black women all around the world are the majority of mothers. Women of color, we dominate the world in population and our energy and our spirit, especially our maternal spirit. And we have been dishonored on multiple levels. We have been forced to dismiss our femininity. We have been forced to dismiss putting our babies to the breast and the power that we have to continue the human race. So, Black Breastfeeding Week is essential. And white women, you are honored all the time, all day, every day. You are honored from sun up to sundown and in between, if there is one. You are honored every time I turn on the television. You are honored in my home. In my home, white women are honored. Without even, I can't close that off. But me and my Black women, my women of color, we are dishonored on a daily basis. And especially when we become mothers. We are told we are lazy, we're not really committed to motherhood. And at conferences, lactation conferences, we're told, well, what's going on with Black women? Why aren't they breastfeeding? We are breastfeeding. And we're breastfeeding amazingly well. And by the way, we don't complain while we breastfeed. We breastfeed with power, with strength. And when we do have problems, we find our resource and we love and support each other. And those who are having issues, we need to ask, why weren't they supported? Where did society fail that mom? The shift is happening, people. We are rising. Knowledge is coming and awakening and is here. There is no more oppression because I can see it in people. We're waking up. And by having Black Breastfeeding Week, thank you, Kadada. Thank you, Kimberly. By doing that, we are making a bold statement to those who I call the nefarious ones. We are making a bold statement to them and saying, you're welcome. And if it weren't for us, you would not be here. So we are honoring our ancestors. We're honoring those who have been ignored and dishonored. And that's why presently, even back to the past, that's why there's a need for Black Breastfeeding Week. If you don't fully get it still, please feel free to email me. Feel free to comment. And My email is Rebecca Jackson-Artis at gmail.com. RebeccaJacksonArtis at gmail.com. I love you guys. Hotep, Nurse on Mamas.